We all love some good D, right? Well, I'm gonna take your D to the next level with just 9 key tips. It doesn't matter what game mode you play or what build you're on, this video will help you out and turn you into a better defender. You know what else we love? When we give someone $5 and they give us back $50. This is exactly what PrizePicks is offering if you use my code YoungDirk. I'm not trolling. You literally just have to place a $5 lineup and you'll get back 50. And PrizePicks is great if you've never used it. It's easy. You just pick your sport, you choose your players and your categories, and you just choose if they're gonna go more or less. It's super simple and easy to use. And if you get all your selections right, you can win big. I did this one today, for example, on Flex Friday. This is another opportunity they offer. Every Friday, you can place a risk-free $20 lineup. So if you lose, you'll get the $20 back. So it's either I turn 20 into 200 or lose nothing. Click the link in the description and use code YoungDirk to get this offer. Please play responsibly, available in select states. Let's get on to the video. There are a few ways to play defense. The first one is just moving your left stick back and forth. This is obviously awful. The next way is just sprinting back and forth. This is also clearly terrible. There we go. Now we're improving. We're holding down our left trigger. We have more control over our player. We're in our defensive stance, and now we're able to actually attach ourselves to the ball handler. Now, if you thought the left trigger was good, what about the left trigger and the right trigger at the same time? As you can see, it's not even comparable. This right here is the best way to play defense in the game. There is a contender that, in my opinion, was the best last year, and that is the left trigger turbo and holding your hands up. But as you can see, they nerfed this a lot, and it's not even comparable. We now know what the best defensive stance is, but you can't play defense like this the entire time. There's going to be a lot of times where you have to incorporate hands up defense along with holding the right trigger just on its own. I'm going to give you guys a few examples so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Example number 1, as soon as he catches the ball, I'm holding LT. I try to get a bump. I don't get it. Now I know that I have to catch up to him, but I see the screen, so I'm trying to sprint under it. I get clipped a little bit. My hand is slightly going up real quick just to guard the 3. Now I put it back down. I'm still sprinting. I'm trying to cut him off to guard the midi fade and his layup at the same time. As soon as I get to this point, I'm holding L2 along with my right stick up to guard the midi and the layup, and I get a great bump and it forces him out of bounds. Example number 2, as you can see, I'm starting off in terrible position. He has that whole right lane open, and the man in the white here is trying to screen me, which means I'm going to sprint, but I need to avoid the screen at the same time. I do, and as soon as I get close to him, I'm holding the left trigger and I get a great bump hip ride animation. He tries to run out of the animation. I'm still holding L2 this whole time. I'm sliding my feet. He has nowhere to go and he's forced to make a pass. Example number 3, I start out in bad position because I went for the lane right here a little late and didn't get it, so I'm instantly holding LT. I think he has the baseline, so I'm gonna quickly sprint. I realize he doesn't even try it, so I'm running back. I'm holding L2 immediately, trying to get attached to him, and I do. So I'm still holding L2, LT, whatever you want to call it, the whole time. He has to dribble the ball up slowly and try to protect the ball to avoid getting ripped, and I see the screen coming. I know he's not going to go back right. It's too much of a risk for him. He could get blitzed or the ball could get bump stolen, which means I'm going to try to cut off his left or try to get the blitz steal. I do not, so now I have to sprint at him, catch up. I'm holding L2, LT again. As soon as I get close to him, I get the bump. I accidentally overrun the play. As you can see, I was still holding up the right stick. I have to sprint back out, but I'm cutting off his angle. As I do, I'm immediately holding left trigger as soon as we make contact, and my right stick's going up again just to guard that spin fade. Not going to shoot that, and now Swag is actually going to play great defense. He's holding L2. He thinks he's going to midi fade, so he has to sprint at him. He does not, so now Swag's got to sprint back at him, and Swag is completely in a bad position here, but because Swag is good, he tries to cut off the rim run and the midi fade. He does, and as soon as he sees him go into the animation for the midi fade, he puts his right stick up and he slaps the dude in the face and gets an amazing contest and forces the miss, and we get the ball. Do not get overwhelmed. This is actually easy, and if you apply everything that I just told you, it's really common sense. Like, it's easy. You just have to apply it in every game that you play, and you're naturally, just through time and experience, going to understand this, understand how the game works, and you're going to be locking everybody up. On this play right here, me and Swag didn't need to communicate. We just knew what to do from experience. That's literally it. Just practice the right things, apply them, and it's just all gonna come natural to where you don't even need to think about it. Later in the video, I'm gonna give you a few more tips to complete your on-ball defense, and we'll get back into this topic, but right now I wanna talk about blitz steals and when to go for steals. What if I told you that to get blitz steals, you literally don't need steal? Like, it could be at a 25, a 0, a 50, whatever, and you can still get steals. Dirk, how is this possible? This is because this has nothing to do with the steal rating itself. It has to do with positioning and your arm reaching out for the ball or trying to run into the ball. This is also called a bump steal. It's pretty much you're bumping into the ball to get it loose to get the steal. Just to make sure we're on the same page, this is a bump or blitz steal, and this is what a normal steal is. The easiest way to get a bump or a blitz steal is you need to predict what they are doing, and off of that prediction, reach so your body or your arm is gonna bump into the ball. And again, you do not need steal for this. Obviously, I do have steal, but I just wanted to make that clear. Watch this. Based off of the speed and the angle that he's running, I know he's gonna dribble up to this point, so I just reach, beat him to the spot, and my back is actually gonna bump the ball out and get me the steal. Another example, this is from one of the best locks on the game. Because of the positioning on the court and people just love to come back, especially because the screen's about to come, he plays his comeback, reaches right into the ball, and his leg or his is gonna actually get the steal. As for normal on-ball steals, when is the best time to go for these? In my opinion, the best time to go for these is after a bump and they are standing still, or just in general when they are standing still dribbling in one spot, but you gotta be closer to them. Also, glove was nerfed this year a lot compared to last year, so you're not gonna get as much steals as 2K24, but you can definitely still get them. All right, you guys, pay attention to all these clips, and I'm gonna tell you something that they all have in common that isn't gonna make sense to a lot of you. On none of these clips did I one time press Y or triangle. I never jumped ever on any of these clips. I would say that on 90% of the times that people try to score in the paint, you're not supposed to jump. And I will explain when you're supposed to, don't worry, but I want to keep talking about this. Anytime somebody drives on me, I am just holding my right stick up. That is all I am doing. Now, they unfortunately added a feature where sometimes if your opponent pump fakes and you're holding your right stick up, your player will jump without you even trying. It'll just do it automatically. Now, to counter this, they say to just hold down on your right stick, but the defense isn't as effective. So I only recommend doing that if you have super high interior, and a lot of people do not. So if you do not have a high interior, just hold your right stick up. It is worth the risk. This has only happened to me a few times. But anytime you're on someone's hip or you're directly in front of them, you are not, I repeat, do not jump. Just hold your right stick up. You're gonna get stops. If they make it, it is what it is, because if they don't go up and you jump, they're going to score. And that's gonna bring us into our next tip, which is when are you supposed to jump? The only time you're ever going to jump is when you are completely beat, which means they're in front of you and they have a clear path to the basket. That is the only time I want you to ever jump. This is gonna help you out a ton. I'm gonna say this again because this is important. If you are on their hip or you are in front of them when they are attacking the basket, just put your hands up, right stick up, do not jump. The only time you jump is when you are trailing them and you are 100% beat. From this point on, this is the icing on the cake that's going to separate you from being an average defender to an absolute elite defender. Let's get back into the topic of on-ball defense and talk about cutoff angles. These cutoff angles are extremely important. It seems like common sense after you learn them, but it is not to most people. And I'll tell you a quick story. In 2K23, I was losing to this one guy consistently in ones wagers. I called a very elite lockdown and asked him if we could go over some film. He said yes, of course, and he taught me these, and it is game changing. Yes, I actually brought out the versatile clipboard. Let's say the ball handler drives, right? I know that he can either do two things. He can fade in the corner, he can fade around here, or he's gonna continue to drive to the basket to go baseline. The whole time he's on this path right here, I'm watching him. Most people would try to like catch up with him and like ride his hip and try to get a bump. No. We're gonna watch him the whole time and see which angle he's taking, and we're going to try to meet him and beat him to the spot so we can get a contest on the fade and we can take away the baseline. So I'm watching him, I'm trying to run here. As soon as I see him turn a little bit, I'm gonna come right here and we're gonna cut him off and he's not gonna score. This looks familiar. What's he gonna do? Fade, I see him go. I'm running to beat him to the spot, put my hands up, puts up a bad layup. I get the stop. Watch, look. I'm sliding. I see him attack, I cut off the angle perfectly. I get the stop. Look, I get fried on this play. He has me turning. Now pause the clip. At this point, by the position of his player, it looks like he's going to drive to the basket and he is not going to shoot a midi fade, which means I have to beat him to the spot to cut him off. Play the clip. And would you look at that? The dude got so scared, he just picked up his dribble and I forced him into some daisy, whatever type of shot, and I got the stop. If you can just learn and master and understand the concept of these cutoff angles, you are going to be a dramatically better defender just off of that. And that's going to bring us into our next on-ball defense tip, and this is very underrated, and that is knowing your opponents and knowing their tendencies. Here is a easy tip that's going to help you guys out a ton. If the guard is under 6'5", they can get a true speed boost in their same hand. If a player is 6'5" and up, they cannot get a true speed boost animation out of their same ball hand. The only way they can get a speed boost is a cross launch or out of a hop jumper. So if I'm guarding a player that is 6'5" and up, I know that 90% of the time, if they even try to go the same way as they're already dribbling, it's going to be a slow run and I'll be able to catch up. So I'm always trying to prepare for the cross launch and the hop jumpers. Small, easy things like this are going to give you a huge advantage on defense. Just knowing that the player can't go a specific way quickly, that makes your life so much easier. All right, listen. Tendencies and picking up on tendencies are super important. Every 2K player, including me, we all have subconscious moves or things we like to do on offense. So every possession on defense, we need to really pay attention what our opponent is doing and use that against them. They're most likely going to continue to do the same things throughout the entire game. A perfect example is this right here. Twice in the beginning of the game, he would hit a move and run out of it at a specific angle to where I need to try to defend his mid-range or his drive, and he would hit me with a snatchback. I recognized that and I made the mental note that the next time he does it, he's probably going to shoot it, or I at least need to play up on it a little more because it's clear that this is what he likes to do. And would you look at that? The next time he does it, I know he's gonna shoot it, and look, I get a light pressure contest. This is what I'm talking about on picking up on people's tendencies. You gotta do this and it's gonna give you a massive advantage on defense. All you gotta do is find out what they like to do, so pay attention as you're playing and then use that against them and you'll get stops. All right, for our next tip, there are a few terms for it. Some people just call it switching, pre-switching, high-lowing, whatever. It's all the same thing, but you need to learn it. It is very important if you wanna become an elite defender. This is hard to explain because now it's just a natural thing for me. I don't really ever think about it, and that goes with all of the people I play with. So you need to just understand this concept, and eventually you'll be able to do it without even thinking about it. It'll just become natural to your game. You might be asking, what is the advantage of this? What is the purpose? Well, it's just a better overall way and strategy to play defense. You're not going to do it every play, but you're going to do it quite often when the time is right. It's also just going to make it a lot harder for your opponent to score, and you're also going to get a lot of lane steals off of this. Okay, so here is a great example. This is a perfect example of high-lowing, switching, and switching back and just doing everything right on defense in one play. All right, let's break down this clip. Now, me and my teammate did not communicate at all. I want you guys to get this down to the point where you also do not have to communicate and it just becomes natural instinct. I see my teammate is getting screened. I'm immediately just gonna run up. My teammate notices that. He stays with him without even talking. Now he realizes he's turning the corner. He's about to drive or shoot that midi fade. I notice that, he notices it, so he just knows to pick up on the big man because I can't guard the big in the paint. So I'm just gonna rotate back out to my man and I get the easy lane steal. It's super simple, guys. Let's watch this again in full speed. Obviously the same thing we just went over. I'm gonna pick up for a second, show myself, he's gonna switch back. I'm gonna run back, get the lane. Easy. Another example, this one's a little bit easier to understand. Pause the clip. We both recognize that I'm in a bad defensive position to guard the rim run or the midi fade, and we also recognize that I am very close to the popper. It's just logical for us to switch that. Watch this. Look, it's just poetry in motion, and we did this just naturally, and this is going to make your defense a lot better. And as you can see, we ended up getting a stop on this play. Now this defensive strategy is not going to guarantee you stops on every possession, but your defense is going to be a lot better, and over the course of a game it's going to help you get more stops. The next tip we're going to talk about is lane steals. How do you get more lane steals? Lane steals are very overpowered this year, and if you know what you're doing, you can get multiple per game. What is the key to lane steals? It's really just understanding tendencies and stealing the predictable passes. For example, if most people are in an uncomfortable position, there is a very good chance they will do what we call a panic pass. Once I identify that they're in a tough spot or a weird position, they're most likely going to pass, so I am expecting it and I will try to time the lane. Now, as far as predictable passes, it's kind of obvious when a player is going to pass the ball. You just need to identify the pass before it's thrown. Here's an example. I missed a shot, they got the rebound. To clear the ball, you gotta bring it back. He's obviously gonna try to pass to his guard. I jumped the lane, I identified it, and I got the steal. And here's another example. I see he's cutting, I'm gonna try to jump in front of him. I do, and I get the steal. It's just predicting the pass. Before I get into the advanced example, you have to understand that your angling and your distance is very important, and this can cause people to throw a lot of lanes because it looks like you're not in position to get it, but you actually are. If you had to guess who was gonna steal this lane based off of this pause right here, you would assume my teammate, right? Well, even though he could have stole it, it was actually me. I identified that he was either gonna have to shoot a very awkward, tough shot, I will live with that if he makes it, or he has to pass it. I got in position, hit X, and we got the steal. Now, if you guys need 20 tips that will make you a way better player, click that video on screen. Drop a like if this helped you out. Have a good day. Go out.